everyone, and welcome to episode 149 of A Stitch in Time. Today is Friday, July 24th, 2020. I'm Carol. You can find me on Ravelry as Knitsnpurls, and I live in the Fraser Valley of British Columbia, not too far from Vancouver. If this is your first time watching, hello, welcome. Thank you for checking out the podcast. And if you're a returning viewer, welcome back. Thank you for choosing to spend some time with me yet again. As always, a huge thank you to all of you who reached out in one way or the other this past week. I always really enjoy hearing from you and appreciate that you take the time to say hello and make this an interactive experience. I believe I'm all caught up on all of my replies. If you have not heard back from me, assume that I haven't seen your message. The YouTube comments notifications are really hit or miss. Sometimes I'll get a notification for one comment, and when I go in to look at it, I find out there are several others that I didn't know existed. So I try periodically to kind of look at the last 2 or 3 episodes, so see if I've missed anything. But if you replied to something prior to that and you haven't heard from me, probably the best way to reach me is via private message on Ravelry or by leaving a comment in the A Stitch in Time podcast Ravelry group. So this is episode 149, take 2. I recorded yesterday afternoon, and then I didn't get a chance to edit it before we went out for the evening, and since then I have a finished project that I did not have yesterday, and then it just sort of seemed like yesterday's news when I sort of thought about editing it this morning. So I decided to take some time to sit down and re-record it. It's just around 9 o'clock in the morning, so I'm hoping to get through this fairly quickly because I have some jobs to get done today. But yeah, I definitely wanted to get an episode out this week. So yes, as mentioned, I have a finished project. I just realized I don't have the yarn label or anything, but that's okay. These are my sunny day socks. One of them is still a little damp from blocking it last night. I literally finished it before I went to bed last night. Put it into soak while I read for a little bit, and then got up, rolled it in a towel, squished a little water out of it, and then laid it out to dry. So this one is a little damp. They are just a plain stockinette vanilla sock knit from Isis Fiber Arts in a sock blank, a fingering weight sock blank with stellina. And the sock blank did not have a colorway name, but because of the bright yellow and bright blue, I named these my sunny day socks. So let me bring the dry one a little bit closer and give you a look. So this is 64 stitch sock, a 1x1 twisted rib, a yarn over heel flap and a yarn over short row heel. There's no gusset there, and then a rounded toe. So this is very typical for my plain vanilla socks. Sometimes I have a heel flap and gusset. Once in a while I do an afterthought heel. I really liked the way the yarn knit up on the heel of this one. It was just a part of the sock blank that just had this other different sort of shade of blue in with it. I guess just the way it was dyed. I just really like how that looks. Obviously, they're a sock blank. They do not, match exactly, but you can see that they are indeed a pair. So, yeah, just a little taste of summer here in the sunny yellow and bright blue and that really pretty shade of purple. So great to get another pair of socks off the needles. Always feels fun. That feeling never gets old. So I am looking forward to casting on another pair of plain vanilla socks because I don't have any other plain socks on the go at the moment. My next two projects that I'm going to show you are both mystery knit-alongs. So if you are participating in the Helen Stewart's Stillness Shawl knit-along, or in Very Busy Monkey's Destination Unknown, which is the Sock Knitters Anonymous group's mystery sock for this July and August, I guess. Go away, come back in 5-ish minutes, and then that way you won't be spoiled. Now, if you don't mind seeing them, stick around. Here they come. So the first one that I will show you is the Stillness Shawl. We have received yesterday. We received clue 5, which is the last clue for the shawl. I have knit up to clue 4 and done 2 rows of clue 5. The yarn I'm using is all from Sweet Georgia Yarns. The color A is their Cash Luxe Fine base, which is a merino cashmere nylon base, and this is persimmon. And the other 2 colors I'm using are Tough Love Sock. This is pistachio, kind of an acidy green. And then there is a multicolored yarn, which is called Rainbow Sprinkles. And I based my color choice on a photo that I have hanging up in my house. Since the theme was still life. So I'll show you kind of step by step, and then it's getting very large. It's hard to get it all in one shot, but there is the beginning of it. Clue 1 went all the way up to, I think, now I'm mixed up. I think clue 1 went all the way up to this striped section. So there's a textured section in there in the multicolored yarn. I mixed things up a little bit, and I knit the pistachio in a garter stitch stripe rather than stockinette. Other than that, I have followed the pattern as written. I just liked the way it looked better that way. So then we have this lace section. More stripes with an eyelet row in there. Another textured section, a different texture. Then the last clue, I'm going to spread this out on my needles as much as I can without losing stitches. This was clue 4, sort of eyelet stripes. And I've just, as I said, done 2 rows of clue 5. It is the border, and it is a kind of a chevron-y lace that's going to be knit in. You can just see a couple of yarn overs there, and it will come to a point. There's a double decrease that takes place. Just trying to see if it's easy to see where it is, just right here. So they're evenly spaced across the shawl. So let's see if I can get a good part of this. I'll kind of spread it out a little bit. Ooh, I don't think I can get the whole thing in one shot. There we go. So it gives you an idea. This has been a fun one to knit, not too hard. So many of Helen Stewart's patterns are very simple yet interesting enough to keep your interest. This is no exception. So I have enjoyed it. Mind you, the rows are getting quite long now. There's over 500 stitches. So I'm reaching the end. It's reaching the end, and I'm glad, because I'm kind of reaching the end also. Anxious to see it all finished up and off the needles. So the next project, living in my Very Busy Monkey project bag, are the mystery socks. I am knitting them 2 at a time concurrently, 2 separate needles. Again, I'm using Sweet Georgia Yarns Tough Love Sock, and this is the Strawberry Tea colorway. Here it is in the skein, and I chose it kind of inspired by the cover of my copy of Destination Unknown, which is where the name for the pattern, that's what it was inspired by, this book. And so I am about halfway through clue 3 on both socks, and we received the final clue a couple of days ago. So I do know how it ends. I won't say anything about how it ends in case some of you who are knitting it don't want to be spoiled by that. So here I've got both socks at the same point. So what's happened is I've finished the entire leg. I've done the heel flap and heel turn. I've picked up for the gusset, and I've knit one round on each one. So then clue 3 takes me about halfway down the foot, and this lace pattern just continues down the foot. So I'll slip this on a sock blocker. That might just give it a little bit, allow the lace to kind of show off a little bit more. There we go. So I really like how they're knitting up. I like this yarn, even though it is variegated. I don't think it detracts too much from the stitch pattern. I think they complement each other well. Sometimes a pattern can get really lost on a variegated yarn, but I think because it's, even though it's variegated, it's kind of tonal at the same time, and I think that helps. So yeah, also enjoying these. Looking forward to finishing them up as well. So while we're on the subject of socks, I had a viewer, I meant to go back and make note of your name. I'm sorry, I forget who it is that asked me this question, but I said I would answer it in this episode. So she asked me to talk a little bit about my sock needles. So I, as well, here, let me grab this sock back. As you can see, whoops, I knit all of my socks on a 32-inch or 80 centimeter long circular needle because I like to do magic loop. I've tried double pointed needles, really didn't enjoy it. I even tried 2 circular needles, and while it worked fine, this is the method I'm most comfortable with. Almost always when I'm using a fingering weight yarn, I will cast on 64-ish stitches depending on the pattern, and I use a 2mm needle. I'm a fairly loose knitter, so while many of you could get the same gauge on a 2.25 or 2.5mm, I need to go down definitely to a 2mm to get a nice firm gauge for the bottom of the foot. I was going to say something else about that, but it is escaping me at the moment. My favorite brand of sock needles is the Chowgu Red Lace. Now I like a metal needle mostly. That's my favorite kind of needle for knitting any project, although I do deviate sometimes. And I like a nice sharp tip on them. Now when I was talking about this yesterday, I had pulled out a different pair of these. Now they do keep, you can see that over time they really have sort of kinked up a bit. I don't find most of the time that bothers me. Once in a while it's a little bit annoying. But I have a newer pair in a 2.25 millimeter size, which I was sharing yesterday. And I don't know if they've changed the cord or if it's just that I feel like they've changed the cord. Or that it's just because it's newer, but you can see it doesn't have, even though that came right out of the package, there's no kinking to it at all. So it does seem like the cord is a little bit different, but again, it might just be from lack of use, because definitely my others have been used frequently. Let's see here. Let's put that one back in. Yesterday, too, I realized when I went to grab these needles out to talk to you today about them, I was missing one that hadn't made it back into the package, and I looked and looked, finally found it, just mislaid here, kind of blended in under another project. Another needle brand I like are the Knitter's Pride Carbons. They also have a really nice cord that does not kink up much. They have, I think it's a carbon shaft to the needle, nice sharp tips. They have metal tips here, nice smooth join. What I have discovered, and I don't know if it's a quality issue or if it's just the way I knit, but this is the second pair now that I find sometimes the tip is kind of starting to not be, on this one side, is not quite as firmly attached as the one on the other. And as I was finishing up my sunny day socks last night and knitting two together and SSKing for the toe decreases, I was finding that my stitches were bunching up and not flowing as well. I know I have one package I've written on it, weak tip. I know I can use it if I have to, but it's not as good as other pairs that I have. So that, I think, possibly is just a result of the way I knit and hold the needle and the stress that I put on that. But it's just because, of course, unlike the Chowgu, you know, that you have your needle tip is one piece, these, of course, by the nature of being two different materials, are two different pieces joined. So that does set up the possibility for a weak point, I guess, a weak spot, as opposed to point. Pardon me. So the another brand that I use regularly, and I honestly, sometimes what determines which needle I choose is sometimes if I'm working two pairs or two socks concurrently, I want to knit them on the same needle. So if I have two of a certain brand free, then I'll gravitate to those. Other times it's just on a whim. Oh, I'll try this one. I'll try this one. So another brand I like are the Hiya Sharps. And again, they are a metal needle. They have a nice sharp tip, a flexible cord, but these do tend to come out of the package and be like that. So what I will do before I start knitting is boil my electric kettle, fill it up, boil it, and then I'll just take the cord and dip it into the kettle briefly, pull it out, take the tea towel and just run it along the length to dry it, and that will relax it enough to sort of start me off. It will never stay as flexible as the carbons. It's just the nature of the cord they use. But again, once I have the socks in place on the needle, I find it easy to manipulate that sort of bend in the cord for the most part. Every so often it gets a little bit twisted and drives you a little crazy, but mostly it's good. And again, you can see the sharp tips on those. for quite a while, I knit my socks on Knitpurls metal needles, and that's actually what I am knitting my Destination Unknown socks on. They are very similar idea. They've got a flexible cord, and the newer ones do tend to stay quite nice. Again, I usually will dip them in, if necessary, dip them in hot water to kind of soften the cord. Nice sharp tip. I've had a problem over the years with the cord coming away from the needle tip. I've never had that issue with any of the other needles. I do think the newer ones tend to be better. But I had run out of free needles, and that's why I dipped into these. But then, you know, look, they matched the project and everything. Not planned that way, but happy accident. Quite a while ago, I had asked if anyone had any questions, and one person had asked about how I stored my needles, and I never did get around to answering the question. I have two interchangeable sets, the Knitpurls and the Chowgu Red Lace, and so I keep all the components for those in the cases that I got with them, and I store them in a basket next to where I knit in the living room. I do have old sets of straight needles, and I do have actually another interchangeable set. Let me lean down here. At a time when there was uncertainty about whether you could take knitting needles on planes, I picked up the set of Denise interchangeable needles. They are all plastic cords, plastic needle tips. They're functional. I don't care for them as much as my metal needles, but you know, I'll hold on to the set nevertheless. You never know when you're gonna need them. So that's just in a cupboard down there, and then the rest of and that's where my old straight needles live too. The rest of my circular needles I have in a drawer here, and they're just arranged from size over, kind of lay the packages on their side like that, and that's where I keep my crochet hooks also, which get far less use. Now, a few years ago, I had asked for Christmas, I had asked for this needle organizer by, hopefully it tells me the brand on here because I've forgotten. Yes, it does, if I can read it. It's stamped on there, but I can't read it. In any case, just trying to get it in the right light. Oh, Namaste. That's right. And it has slots for different sizes of circular needles, and gives you little cards, little separatable cards to write your needle size in and mark each slot with them. I didn't think I had any needles in here whatsoever, but apparently I have a rogue pair of 3mm circulars. Don't even know where they're from. I keep thinking I really should switch some of my needles over to here, especially ones where the packages are starting to give out a little bit. I do keep, as you can see, I do keep all my needles in their original packages. So this, if I ever did, this lives also in that basket in the living room by my knitting, where I knit at the end of the couch. It's kind of a shame I've actually used it, but I think it's just really easy to store them in my drawer there, and when I need them, just go rifle through and can see at a glance what I have. And I also like the fact that then I can see what brand it is, and the size is on the package, where if I put it in here, I run the risk of putting the wrong needle size in the wrong slot. Pardon me. So we'll see. Yesterday was a really good mail day, so let's talk acquisitions, because who doesn't like getting new things in the mail? I think it was just before COVID-19 hit that a new book was brought to my attention called 52 Weeks of Socks by Len Magazine. And as the name suggests, there are 52 sock patterns in the book. But it's pretty pricey, and I kind of hummed and hawed a little bit. And I had located one at a local-ish yarn shop about an hour or so away from here. And I had it in and out of my online cart a few times. And then the pandemic was upon us, and we kind of sealed the deal for me because we were avoiding non-essential purchases at the time because we weren't sure how COVID was going to affect our finances. So then by the time I thought about it again and knew that, I could afford it, it seemed to be out of stock everywhere. I was trying to find a Canadian source for it. And then I kind of forgot about it. And just over, I guess, a week or two ago, I was chatting with a knitting friend on Ravelry, and she mentioned that she had finally got her copy. Her son had picked it up at a yarn shop local to him, but then COVID-19 happened. They were unable to see each other until just recently, and he delivered her book to her. And so that kind of jogged my memory and spurred my interest again. And I actually managed to find a copy online at a shop called Wabi Sabi in Ottawa, which coincidentally is where my friend got hers from. And so I decided I was going to order it. And of course, I had to order some yarn along with it too. So it arrived yesterday. Here it is in all its glory. It's very heavy. It's a hardcover book. Beautiful quality. It has this woven cover. It's really pretty dust jacket. And the photography in here is just beautiful. Whether it be just knitting or scenery or the socks themselves. Let's find a large photo to show you. Here's one. I'll just leaf through it and show you a few. The quality of the paper is really good. Has that wonderful new book smell. Patterns are laid out seems like really nicely, in my opinion. Clear, easy to read charts, color coded, and lots of really nice patterns. And they've been they are patterns by very familiar designers like Caitlin Hunter, Andrea Mowry, Helen Stewart, Joji Locatelli, but then there are many patterns by lesser known designers. And they are just, a whole range of kinds of styles, short, long, cables, lace, color work. So there's something for every taste. There's another really beautiful photograph. Two criticisms, if I may. One is, this is a beautiful dust jacket, but it's only this big, and I can see it getting tattered quite easily and kind of in the way. So what I will probably do is, unless it's sitting on my shelf, I will take this off, put it somewhere safe while the book is in use, because I just think it's going to get worn out. The other is, it's just a small thing, but it's the practical side of me coming out. I'm just going to see if I can find, yeah, this is such a beautiful photograph here. And I love the way the socks look, sticking out of the top of that boot. But when I went to look at the pattern, I thought this was rather odd. Do you see that? It has lace on the bottom of the foot. And I just find that it's like you have holes in your sock before you even start wearing them. I just can't imagine they would wear that well. So it might be a pair that you would choose to knit and just use as house socks, kind of, in bed, or not actually walking around in them very much. Or like me, if I knit this pattern, I will knit the sole in a, solidly. That was the only thing I just thought was very odd. Yes, it's very beautiful. I mean, it is lovely, but not very practical. In any case, yeah, there's another gorgeous photo. This book was, I paid, in some places it was $75 Canadian. I paid $77.50. I am not sure what the cost is in US dollars or pounds. And I don't know how widely available it is in a yarn shop near you, but it is a lovely book. Even if I never knit a pair of socks from it, which I think is unlikely, it's beautiful just to have and to leaf through. So yeah, I would recommend that if you're interested. Definitely the quality is there, and when you break it down, if you let's call it $75 and there's 52 pairs of socks, I mean, that's a really good price point per pattern. And so when you view it that way, it really is quite a good deal compared to what you might pay individually for a sock pattern. Plus shipping, of course. So as I said, while I was ordering the book, I browsed the yarn selection for the shop and came across some brands that I had never heard of. So I had to try them out. So this one really caught my eye. This is, I would think you would say it, Fiberlia. There's a website, fiberlia.com. They are based out of Sherbrooke, Quebec, which coincidentally, my grandfather was born near there before moving to British Columbia with his family when he was about 9 or 10 years old. So this is Fiberlia Casu Marvelous, which Casu has several ways that it's dyed, like a semi-solid or tonal, striped, and variegated. And then this is, so it's Marvelous is the variegated, and this is the Dorothy colorway, and I'm assuming that's a reference to, somewhere over the rainbow in The Wizard of Oz, just based on the colors. But I thought this would make such a bright, cheerful, fun pair of socks. And the other one I ordered is completely different. It's subtle and pastel, and this is from Celtic Raven Fibers. They are in Nova Scotia. This is a superwash sock yarn made from 80% blue-faced Leicester, 20% nylon. And this is the Maureen's Mystic Moonbeam colorway, which I just thought was so pretty. And when I saw it, I thought this looks like a Helen Stewart pattern. A lot of her patterns seem to be in really soft colors like this, and I just thought can definitely see one day knitting a Helen Stewart pattern out of this, or something similar. It may be something entirely different, but I really do like this one too. Hi. You see, I like all sorts of yarn, bright and cheerful, subtle, and pastel. because there's room for all sorts of different yarns, right? And then, so that was delivered as a parcel, came kind of mid-morning. And then when I went to check my mail, regular mail, just before lunchtime, I found a little package in the mailbox, and it is a book that I ordered weeks ago from Amazon. When I was in elementary school, there was a book in the library that I really loved called Voices in the Night. And I didn't remember all of the plot line, but it had to do with the Underground Railroad. And it was probably my first introduction to the subject of slavery, and then consequently the Underground Railroad, and it's something I've always been really interested in, and I think it was this book that sparked that interest. I was actually really disappointed. A few years ago there was a novel written called The Underground Railroad, and I got it on audiobook, started listening to it, and it was a traditional kind of slave story, and then all of a sudden they were like real trains rather than the idea of it being using the term railway metaphorically. They were actual trains, and I just couldn't get past that, and I had to stop listening to it. I think if the story had continued in a more traditional manner, I would have definitely stuck with it. But as soon as they brought real trains in to move the slaves from one point to another, I just couldn't follow that. In any case, that's an aside. So over the years, I have tried to track down this book. I knew it was called Voices in the Night. I didn't know the author. Every time I looked, I came up empty, and then just was, for whatever reason, inspired a couple of months ago or 6 weeks or so ago to look again, and I'd found it, and promptly ordered a used copy, and so it arrived. This is like a Scholastic Book Club copy. The one I remember from school, seems to me it had a purple cover, same illustration, but I remember purple cover, and it was a hard cover, and it had like a glossy dust jacket on it. Perhaps my memory does not serve me right, but this, I definitely remember that illustration. And then as I was flipping through it last night, and I remember this one. The main character tries hoops for the first time and doesn't have a very easy time managing them. So as you might imagine, it is set during, I think it's 1862 I just read the first chapter while I was having breakfast this morning. Yeah, 1862. And the main character, Jeannie, her father has died recently. Her mom has tried to struggle on with her family of 4 children, and comes to the point where she realizes she can't manage alone and enlists the help of neighbors. And so I've just reached the end of the chapter where the more mail. That was very timely. I'll show you what I got in just a minute. Another package I've been waiting for weeks. Just to finish up, so reached the point in the book where the mother is not able to manage looking after her children and enlists the help of neighbors. And the neighbors all get together and with the mom and decide the best thing for the time being is to divide up the family among several homes. And so Jeannie, the main character, is going to go live with the Alden family. I had to look on the back to see. So long story short, the Alden family is their home is a station along the Underground Railroad, and Jeannie learns of the secret. So looking forward to rereading this. It's been, I date myself, definitely 45 years for sure, probably a little more. So looking forward to it. So what arrived in the mail is I decided we've had kind of plastic placemats in our kitchen for a long time. A good part of that is with the grandkids, if they get stuff, it's easy to wipe up. But I decided they're getting older and I'm ready for some nicer placemats, so I wanted to make some. So I ordered what do they call these? Charm pack, and a jelly roll. Is that what they call that? I think. And several lengths of fabric to use as binding and backing. They're all coordinating. So I'll just give you a quick look at some of the patterns. Oh, hold it up there. You and I are getting a look at this at the same time. Oh yeah, they have little checkered ones. Flower prints. So I am just going to have fun. I'm going to make them all a little bit different and have some backed with the same fabrics. Sort of as a set, and bind them, and yet the fronts will all be different. So that gives you an idea of the pattern collection right there. So that'll match my kitchen really well. So this is Tranquility by, I think that says Jerry Robinson. I can't read that really well. Of Planted Seed Designs, and it is a Riley Blake Designs. I don't know a ton about quilting fabric companies, but yeah, now can't wait to play with that. But it's going to have to wait. I'll tell you why. I think that's it for all the knitting and acquisitions. So a little bit about what's been going on this past week since I spoke to you last. So as I mentioned in the last podcast, was going to be looking after our grandchildren for a few days, and then we were taking them up to the cabin for the weekend. So I had the two younger, our 5-year-old granddaughter and our 9-year-old grandson. Their older sister was away visiting her mom. Normally, she looks after her younger siblings when my daughter's at work. Usually it's just for a few hours in the afternoon, most weekdays. So Jessica needed some help, and of course I did say yes. Now that was our first bringing anyone sort of into our bubble. We have kept our bubble very small since the beginning of COVID-19, and although we have socialized with some of our own children and grandchildren and some family and friends outside, well apart, this is the first time we were bringing them into our home and spending time, close up. So yeah, it was good to have them, see them more, and be able to give them, a hug and such. So they, as I say, they stayed over. Or maybe I didn't say. So I had them Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. They stayed over Thursday night. We left for the cabin Friday morning. And then we actually met up with our oldest granddaughter in the town just near the cabin. It's about 17 kilometers from the cabin, and that's where my mom lives. And we met our granddaughter's mom in town, and took our granddaughter out to the cabin with us for the weekend, and then her mom was visiting someone in the next town along for the weekend. So then she came back Sunday morning to the cabin, picked up our granddaughter, took her back to her place for another week. So she comes back into to her home here this coming weekend. So yeah, we had a good time. Must say, we were tired. You forget how much time and attention, especially the little one, takes. She is Little Miss Independent and needs watching because she gets something in her head, and she's very quick. So you just have to keep an eye on her all the time, make sure she's not getting into any mischief. Her room where she was staying is right outside the laundry area. That's the yellow room where I sometimes record. She was staying there, and the other day I went to go wash my hands at the utility sink. Couldn't find the soap, and she had taken the soap and the nail brush from the sink and put it in the little shelf in the bed. Not sure what appeal it had, but it had some appeal. So that's the kind of stuff she'll do, kind of get into things. But we had a really good time with them, and I think the highlight of their weekend was some friends down the road gave us a call Saturday morning to see if the kids wanted to go out in the boat that afternoon. They have a really long pontoon boat. There's lots of room for social distancing. It's very comfy, very, very safe, very yeah, you hardly even know you're on a boat. It's very stable. That's the word I'm looking for. It was we had planned already to take them down to the lake after lunch to go swimming. It had been sunny in the morning, it got overcast, and that didn't stop my younger granddaughter. She loves the water, so she has this little floaty thing on, and we were just right at the front where it was shallow, and so she's the only one of us who was brave enough to actually get completely wet. She went in a couple times. The rest of us just kind of dipped our toes in the water, and their parents had sent some water guns, so we were filling up the water guns, and the kids were running around having a great time with those. So my granddaughter was getting pretty cold, and I said, I think we better get you changed before we get in the boat. She wanted to go back in the water, and she's like, I'm not cold, I want to go back swimming. It's like, no, I think when your lips turn blue and I think it's time to get warm. So we got her changed up and into a hoodie and that, so it was plenty comfortable on the boat, because it can get cool out on the water, especially if you're wet. So yeah, we just had a lovely afternoon, and then we'd already arranged for these neighbors, and then my mom and her friend drove out from town to have supper with us. So we all sat outside, braved the mosquitoes. They are a lot worse. They were a lot worse this last weekend than they were several weeks ago when we were up at the cabin. So we all had lots of bug spray on. Cameron barbecued hamburgers and hot dogs. I prepped all the buns inside individually, so there was no, handling of things. Washed my hands like a gazillion times. So we felt like it was a safe way to have people for a meal without all sharing enclosed spaces or handling utensils and things by multiple people. So it was very good. It was nice. And then we headed home the next day. The first half of the car ride was quite lovely. The last half, I think we all just couldn't wait to get home. It was really hot. Kids were getting restless, kind of getting at each other. We had to stop for over half an hour for construction at one point. So when we got to my daughter and son-in-law's place, they disappeared inside, back to their favorite electronics and things, and we had a little visit with Jessica and Neil, and then we were happy to get back to our place and kind of unpack and unwind a little bit. But it was very good to see them. We actually saw them again last night. It was Jessica's 35th birthday yesterday, And so we went over and had supper with them. And now that they're in our bubble, we actually had dinner at the kitchen table. Felt really strange. I have a lot of anxiety about the idea of having COVID and inadvertently passing it on to someone. And I'm sure we all have those worries. So it's a little bit, for me, it takes, I think I'm the most uptight about taking this next step. And as I said, we've kept our bubble extremely small this whole way. So we're really not opening it up a lot by 5 people, but then it's the people those 5 people are in contact with. So it's baby steps. I'm sure I will become more relaxed with it over time. Definitely seeing an uptick in our COVID-19 positive cases here in British Columbia since we entered phase 3 of our reopening. And even though, say, an average of 30 cases per day is very small compared to many places, it has jumped significantly from about 15 or so, 15 to 20, and now we're at about 30. And so it has the potential to get out of control. There was a couple of events, gatherings, parties and stuff in one particular town that affected numerous people over sort of Canada Day weekend and that week. So I think it started with just a handful of people that had COVID, and I think the numbers are now up to over 70. And I think approximately 1,000 people are self-isolating as a result of that. And of course, some may yet test positive as time goes on, and if they're not all caught. And unfortunately, it seems like the trend in many other places, it's younger people who are not practicing the health and safety recommendations and getting together in large groups and with people they don't know and in close quarters. And that's a recipe for disaster, as we know. So hopefully, I know the province has put a couple of new regulations in place since just in the last week to try and minimize that kind of activity, and hopefully our numbers will start to go down again very soon, especially if people sort of see how quickly it can get out of control. So cross fingers, knock wood, all that. On a happier note, Cameron and I are going to be on holidays this next week. As of end of business day today, he is on holidays. I know he's really looking forward to it. Work continues to be very busy. And so we're going to split our time between the cabin and Sun Peaks. If you've been watching for a while, we went there last year about the same time. It's our anniversary on Tuesday, so we're going to head up there on Monday and be there for 3 nights. So Sun Peaks is a ski resort town in the British Columbia interior. It's about, I think, from here, about 3 hours, maybe 3-hour drive. And of course, even though it's a ski resort during the summer, there's still lots to do. We're going to golf one day, and we are going to, once again, like last year, take the chairlift up to the Alpine Meadows and do a hike up there. So looking forward to that. It'll be curious to see how this year's sort of crop of wildflowers compares to last year. Apparently last year's was really good. They had just the right kind of blend of sun and moisture. This year it's been cooler and wetter, so yeah, I'll just be interested to see how it compares to last year's display. Doesn't really matter. We're just happy to get away again, have some downtime, and enjoy a little bit of nature. So as a result, I will not be recording next week, and I will at times have zero internet, and even when I do, I will probably not be online very much. So if you leave a comment, I might just give you a heart or a like or a love or whatever it is back to you. I appreciate you taking the time if you do reach out, but I won't be spending a lot of time answering those messages, just so you know, even though I do very much appreciate them. It's kind of a break for me too, because it does take time. I do enjoy it, don't get me wrong, I really do enjoy interacting with you, but I do have to carve out some time during the week to do that. So my something good before I say goodbye, when I recorded yesterday, it was Jessica's birthday, but since then, we've been to her house and had supper, and so I decided to replace yesterday's something good with pizza on the barbecue. So my son-in-law had, and Jessica had told us about it, and so that's what they were having for her birthday. So we got to try it out. So our son-in-law, Neil, made this beautiful dough, rolled it out, he heated the pizza stone, the bakeware stone, in the barbecue, kind of slid the skin on it. Now for theirs, he put the skin on briefly, brought it inside, flipped it over, they put their toppings on what had been the bottom side, slipped it back onto the stone, and finished baking it that way. For ours, he did a little different just to try it, and we put our toppings on, he slid the skin onto the stone and just baked it that way. It was amazing. The crust was really light. He lets it rise overnight. It was very light, very good. The bottom is a little bit charred, but not like burnt, like it doesn't taste good. It just adds a little extra flavor. It wasn't black by any means, but it was a little dark, but light and crispy, and just delicious. So he gave me the recipe for the dough, and I will definitely be trying it somewhere down the line here at home. Hopefully I can do as good a job. So just looking around me, take a quick peek at my notes. I just had about the weather. We finally had a taste of real summer weather, which I can kind of do without. We had several days that were over 30 degrees, and that's just too damn hot as far as I'm concerned. I like it up to about mid-20s, which is like 70s to 80 degrees Fahrenheit. That's about the most heat I can take. So thankfully that only lasted a few days. We've gone down to more moderate temperatures. Actually, as I was recording, it's overcast now, and I actually saw a few raindrops on the window there. I don't think it's supposed to rain very much, but it's going to cool down, and then I think the temperature is going to go up again in a few days. By then, we will not be here, and I think where we're going, it's going to be a little bit cooler than that. So we may, depending on how long the hot spell lasts, may miss the worst of it. So hopefully that's the case. So yeah, I think I've talked about everything else and actually gone on way longer than I expected. So I will see you again in a couple of weeks. I hope you take care until then. Stay well. Thank you for watching, and I will look forward to talking to you again in a couple of weeks. Bye for now.